Join me today as we add a witch's hat cookie jar to our cookie jar collection. Stay tuned and see how fun and easy this project is. All right, we are going to start our cookie jar like we do pretty much every month. I have a Sharpie. This is a Bic marker, same size as a Sharpie. You need something about the same diameter as a Sharpie marker. And I've done this, I've got more details on this process on previous videos. So if you want to learn more about the process, you can look back at some of the other videos in the series. Now I've got it rolled around just once, and wherever the end meets, I'm going to mark a little bit past where that meets, because I don't want to put glue on this part that's going to touch the barrel of my pen while I'm forming this. And then I've got tacky glue, a nice thick tacky glue. And yes, this is going to go in the oven, and yes, we're putting paper in the oven under our clay. It will be fine. I've been doing this for a very long time, and it works really well. Then we put glue on this side of the end so that we can glue that end. The only secret to this is, there's a couple of them. First off, roll this really as straight and as tightly on this barrel of this pen as you can. This is what we're going to build our cookie jar on. This is our base. The cookie jar will be built on top of this, and this needs to be really well done. Take it off the pen, set it aside to dry, preferably overnight. The only time this process has failed for me was when I tried to rush the glue on this, and I put it in the oven before the glue was completely cured, and then it kind of unrolled on the inside. As long as I've had no problems when I let the glue dry all the way. So I'm going to set this off to the side and let it dry, and then I'll be back and we can start putting the first coat of clay on. All right, my glue has had plenty of time to cure, and I'm going to put the first layer of polymer clay onto our paper core. So yes, we're using white. This happens to be original Sculpey. Any white clay will work. I like to use white for my first layer because that way the interior of our cookie jar is completely white. It looks a little nicer. That way a little more realistic, because we are going to be able to take the lid off of our cookie jar when we are done. The finished cookie jar, remember, the lid comes off. And I've just got 2 craft sticks, one on each side of my clay. And I am rolling it out to a nice, even strip of clay. Now, cut there. I cut this just a little bit shy of the top of this, because it will kind of smash out a little bit on the next step, and it always grows a bit. Now I'm going to, and this layer, it's got a little bit of something else in it. It's fine. It won't matter on this layer. Now I am going to measure where this comes, and I'm going to cut it just a little bit short. Just like I just said, this will grow. It always grows a little bit. Now I have, for this layer, I'm using my liquid white, my liquid Sculpey in white. I do have a tiny bit of TLS left that I've been saving. We're going to use for putting the black clay on if I have enough. And I'm just putting a nice layer of this on. Anytime you're attaching raw clay to anything other than raw clay, be it the paper, baked clay, whatever, use a layer of liquid clay to make it to act as a glue. And this is going to be kind of slippery, and that is a very soft clay, so it's going to be a little slippery, a little. Okay, and that even grew just a little bit more, so I'll cut off the edge on the bottom, roll it to get a nice tight fit. I do like to put a double layer of clay on the bottom, and this will be attaching to the raw clay on the side, so I don't need to worry about any liquid clay to glue it together. raw clay will stick to raw clay when you bake it, as long as you press it together a little bit. But raw clay doesn't reliably stick to other things. Now we want a nice smooth surface, as smooth as we can get on this layer. And now one more important piece on this step, and that is to make a snake of clay. And this is going to be the little plug that goes at the bottom of our lid, so that our lid will stay on our cookie jar. I'm going to make it a little smaller today. Yeah, that will go in. That way I've got a little more leeway. It's just kind of our assurance once our cookie jar is baked and put on a shelf that we don't have to pick the lid up and put it back on every time someone walks past the dollhouse. All right, I am going to bake both of these at the recommended temperature for my clay for 10 minutes. I want to cure that TLS, that liquid clay, completely. And when that's baked and cooled, I'll come back and we can move to the next step. All right, these two are baked and cooled, so I'm going to set them over to the side right now. And I have some black clay. I think this is Black Primo, if I remember correctly. I've conditioned it some. It could probably use a little more, but I think it'll be fine. And I'm rolling it out just like I did for our first layer. You want a nice even sheet of clay. And I'm going to cut a nice straight edge, and I can feel this part is a little thicker because I didn't go all the way at the end. Again, I'm going to go just slightly shorter than my cookie jar because I find it does grow a bit. And this is going to make our cookie jar kind of fat, which I'm not thrilled about, but I think it'll be okay. Actually, I think I'm going to go just a little thinner now. There. Now it will be a little bit thinner than it was. Cut off. Make my edges nice and straight again. And now I have, sitting upside down, my translucent liquid Sculpey. I don't have much in here anymore, but I'm hoping there's enough to work with on the black. And I'm hoping that next time I go craft store shopping, I can get some kind of a clear liquid clay. Whether it's Sculpey or Fimo or Kato clay or something, I want a clear one in addition to that white one that I got. All right. And it's okay if I've got a little extra. That will simply just work into the clay. Since it's clear, it will work into my clay and be fine. Get a straighter edge there. And try to get this seam worked out so that you don't really see it. And then cut your clay even with the top and the bottom. And now we're going to re-roll this clay out again using the craft sticks so that we have a nice even sheet of clay. And I have a round clay cutter that's just slightly bigger than, I hope it's still slightly bigger. Oh, it's not, so let's go to the next one. Okay, it'll be a big base on this cookie jar. Our cookie jar is going to take up a lot of real estate on the kitchen counter, but that's okay, it's kind of cool. that will be the brim of our hat. And I am going to put just another little bit of liquid clay on the bottom. And now I want to bake this again for 10 minutes. Let me get this on the tray and then push it together. Try and get your hat centered. All right, so that will get baked for 10 minutes at recommended temperature. When it's baked and cooled, we'll come back and we'll work on the lid. All right, our cookie jar is out of the oven. It's cooled to room temperature, and the top is not smooth. So I've got some coarse sandpaper here, and I'm going to sand the top. This will make the lid fit a lot better and look a lot nicer, especially on this one where it's kind of going to be important to have our lid look nice. Make sure you're holding it straight up and down. And now it's got a nice smooth top. So I have some small pieces of parchment paper here because I want to protect the top of this from my clay. I'll put that sandpaper off the side. We're going to need that again. Oops, that was not good. I just got clay dust all over that. I'm not going to clean this. All right. Now I don't want to go a whole lot bigger. I was looking at this. This could be a good top hat too, if we could think of a theme for a top hat cookie jar. This here, so that I need more. Make a ball. And we're going to try and make this as smooth as possible. I'm kind of making it flat on the tray first. That'll cut down on my work. And I'm just using my fingers to kind of feel where the cookie jar is under there. And I'm coming down a little bit on the sides, and that's okay because we can sand any lip off when we get it out of the oven again. Now let's make a nice point. And it can be either straight up and down, it could be to the side. I think my witch's hat's going to bend a little bit at the top. Now, take it off of there. I'm just going to leave it on that parchment paper. And I'm going to bake this for, this is pretty thick. Let's bake this one for about 20 minutes just to make sure it cures all the way to the middle. And then it will need to cool back to room temperature, and then we'll be able to work on the next step. All right, this is baked and cooled, and now the same process, we're going to run this over the sandpaper just to make sure we have a nice flat base to minimize that it's going to show. And now my hands are full of clay dust. That will come off though. This is cured clay, so it'll be fine. And sand it until you like how it fits. Don't sand where it's going to show, only sand that bottom surface. All right, now we have this little piece that we made in our first step. I'm going to snug this down into a ring of aluminum foil, because if this tips when I'm baking this on, it could slide, and then I would have my little thingy to hold this onto the cookie jar in the wrong spot. And since I made it considerably smaller than the opening of the cookie jar, I don't have to be as precise as I do sometimes. Okay, make sure this is nice and flat. And I'll double check that it's flat as I put it into the oven also. And I'm going to get it as close to the center as I can though. All right, I'm going to put this off to the side, and I'm going to prepare to do the decoration for the hat. All right, off camera, I conditioned some purple clay. I think this is Fimo, but I'm not sure what the color is. I had it for a project for my other channel. And I have a little tiny piece of, you must see better on the tray, metallic gold from Primo. So I'm going to take this purple, and we are going to do something I very seldom do, and that is we're going to put some raw clay on our baked clay without any liquid clay. And that's because I don't want to take a chance on my liquid clay showing, and even the translucent clay would show a little bit. I'm hoping that's long enough. And I'm going to make just a thin snake, as consistent in size as I can by hand, which is a little difficult, but I think it'll be okay. Now I'm going to start at, actually I'm going to start at the, no, I'm going to start at the back. I'm going to make this look like, go around, whoopsie, come on, stay there. Yeah, I got plenty. This is actually my third time taping this because I had not rolled out enough clay earlier when I did this the first couple of times. So I kept adding more clay until I had enough to go all the way around. All right, let's take off the excess. And now I'm going to gently push this down. All right, it is touching itself in the back, so that should help. There. Then with this gold, I'm just going to take just a very tiny piece. I'm going to roll a really tiny, and this will be raw clay against raw clay, so it should be okay. There. Now we are going to put this back in the oven, both pieces back in the oven at recommended temperature for a full 10 minutes. We want to make sure that, especially that this liquid clay cures all the way, so that will stay put. When it's baked and cooled, I'll come back and we'll put a clear finish on and see how this looks. All right, these are baked and cooled, and I love how they look. It's a little tall for a cookie jar, but I like it. I think it's going to be really cute. It'd be awesome if you have like a Halloween themed miniature room. So I am going to attach them both to some craft sticks with some blue painters or blue poster tack. And I've got some satin Mod Podge. This is some of that Mod Podge that Plaid sent me along with one of their brushes. And I am going to put a thin, even coat. I'm working directly out because I know there's nothing on here that I'll contaminate my Mod Podge with today, and I'm feeling lazy and I don't want to pour it out. Okay, so I am going to put just a very thin, even coat. Remember, Mod Podge needs to be put in very thin coats. If you want more on, put a second coat on after the first is completely dry, because Mod Podge has a really nasty tendency to stay tacky if it goes on too thick. It's usually because it's on too thick, and the more gloss there is in that particular Mod Podge, the more chance there is that it will go sticky. Don't put it on the bottom, and don't put any on these surfaces that are going to touch. Like, I'm not going to put any up here. I'm going to stop at the edge. I'm not going to put any on the bottom. When this Mod Podge is all dry, I'll come back and we will look at our cookie jar. All right, our Mod Podge is dry, and this is ready to set in the dollhouse. I love this. Perfect touch for Halloween. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Be sure and check the blog post for photos, and I'll try and note as many of the colors of clay I used as I can. If you enjoyed the video, press the like button. Leave me a comment. What kind of themes would you like to see in future videos? If you enjoy my content and haven't subscribed, I encourage you to hit that subscription button and the notification bell so you know when I put up my next video. Thank you very much for watching today, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.